how my brain works.
Okay, we are Conservatives of Texas coming to you today from Amarillo, our home location. As you can see on the bottom of the ticker, we do meet once a month every third Thursday. We'd love to see you out there at 7 p.m. Eastside Entrance, Comanche Trail Church of Christ, where we try to get our heads together and be involved in local community items. And we'd love to hear some input from all of you guys here in Amarillo, Texas. We do have other folks peppered throughout the state. They don't quite meet like we do, but they are out there. If you're interested in finding out who is where, please get a hold of us and we will be more than happy to get you linked up. Today, we are going to be speaking on a few things, some activism, how to raise up some candidates, the local runoff that we just had over the weekend. We do have an elected official here. She's going to be speaking on the capacity of how important it is for us to be involved and to show up. She's not going to be speaking on any personal avenues of thought when it comes to, the Regency itself, but we do want to hear from her and how important it is for them to see us involved. We also have Kathy. This is a hybrid type of connect. It's considered as a Texas, but we are also precinct chairs. I'm in the 111. She's in the 421. We do have about 2 or 3 others that usually come to these, but it's Sunday, and so we like to give people a break sometimes. Me and Kathy just don't sleep for some reason.
No time.
We also have some folks that you may have seen in times past, Vivian Woods and Carl. I never caught your last name.
Mireles.
Carl Mireles. And so they, I love listening to them because they really add a component of a characterization to the degree that really keeps our thermostat alive and well as far as keeping a balance as to what is going on in the effect of what's important to everyone. We are, Kathy and I, we're Republican Party, Randall County chairs, but before any of that, we stand firm in the republic for which it stands for. And we know that the whole vision and the whole concept of the republic for which it stands and its origination is to hear from everyone, and every voice matters. And that's what gives us, as the Republican Party, its strength. And today, a lot of those things are changing, unfortunately, right, Kathy? I mean, yes. We really want to bring it back to the conversation as to what's important to our country as a whole. Everyone here has a voice, and sometimes we may not be too keen on what everyone has to bring to the table, but that's what makes our country what it is. And I think that everyone should count in all conversations, and then you'll have a better revenue of thought. So here's some folks here, and we are going to get them involved in the conversation. So the runoff, we had, I think it came out to 51, or was it 59 votes?
51 is what I heard last.
51 votes. You've heard us say it once. You've heard us say it 100 times. In the local, it is so very imperative to get out and to make your voice heard. 51 votes, that's not a lot. When it comes to the local Board of Regents, the local Amarillo Independent School District, and of course our City Council, that right there really, really affects us as soon as the next minute. Peggy, whatever you can expand on, I know that when you ran, I think there was a difference of like 80 votes between, you don't have to mention any names, but between a hardline Democrat and then yourself, and then another person. If I remember the numbers, I think it was only in one precinct, but it was really close. I do know that we had a conservative, I think his name was Dan Hinkey, that he got beat out by the Democrat. And you kind of got the finger pointed at you, remember?
Oh, I remember that quite well.
But you're conservative. So I don't understand why you got the finger pointed at you whenever there was a hardline Democrat, that really runs out of the Lubbock area. Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
I wasn't necessarily the chosen one. I think that's what makes the difference.
Oh, I see. And in Amarillo, what makes you the chosen one?
Who certain people want. Without naming names, I do need to say that I'm not speaking on behalf of Amarillo College to anybody out there. I was elected to the Board of Regents in 21 and did not know until 23 when I had asked Irene Hughes to run, as she is also a conservative and a true conservative, that I didn't come in third. I came in second. And I didn't worry about the numbers. I can't answer that question because I really didn't worry about the numbers. God called me to run, and I ran as I felt like God was directing me to do the things that I did. I really didn't know what I was doing, except that I knew God called me to run, and I was answering that call. I don't think that today I would be able to run on the same budget that I ran on then. I ran on $2,499. That was it. And yet God, and I can't discount what he can do with people when God puts his stamp on something and his people obey, then his will is done.
Sure.
There's always an if. It's a little tiny 2-letter word with a lot of big impact.
Sure.
It's the if.
So with your political pedigree, that's what got you in second, right? I'm being sarcastic.
Well,
I
think what I said at a certain forum was that, you can vote for all of these people, and they're all good people. You can cast the Board of Regents and the AISD. It's an at-large vote, which means that you've got 3 votes for Amarillo College. You can vote 3 times for one candidate or split it up between 2 or 3. And I laughingly, it kind of shocked everyone. I wanted everyone to know that I was pro-choice. They had asked, about pro-life, and no one had addressed it. And because I'm a T, they went alphabetical, and I was the last person to speak. And I said, I'm pro-choice. And you could have heard a pin drop because it was Republican Forum. And I said, a woman can say no, and she can cross her legs. But when God places a child in that mother's womb, that baby has every right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that you and I have.
Yeah.
And everybody breathed again. That kind of got everyone's attention. And then at the end, and I didn't know what I was going to say again, it was all God inspired what I did. But I said that you can vote for any of these candidates. There was 9 of us, I believe. And you can give all 3 votes to any of them. They're great people. But I'm the only one that it rhymes with. You can vote 3 for Peggy T.
Gotcha.
And that kind of stuck. And I think that's one of the things that God used, along with me being upfront and honest about where I stood on things like DEI and CRT. Those were new buzzwords back in 21. And I was asked, where I stood on critical race theory, and I'm thinking, well, you're getting me into the topic of race. And I said, I don't like the word race. That indicates that someone wins, someone loses, and there's a few left in the middle. And God created human beings. We're all humanity. Some of us have more melanin than the others. Some of us have less melanin. But it's not a race, and there's not a superior. Just the word race in critical race theory is itself racist. And there were people that didn't like that, because I called people that were proponents of critical race theory racist.
Mhm.
But it's true. If you're looking at skin color, melanin content, then you're a racist. And so there were some things like that that I kind of turned. And by being upfront and honest and letting God direct me, quite honestly, I think that's what got me in. One thing that the $2,499 that I ran in, as I said, I don't think that's going to happen again, because there's some people throwing some big money around in Amarillo. More, maybe we're more aware of it now, or maybe it's increased more.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the numbers to speak on that absolutely. But going forward, anyone that considers running has to consider fundraising.
Sure.
And they have to be willing, the people that support them, $10 a month, or a small donation, it all adds up and it makes a difference, because you have to have funds to have the signs. You have to have funds to have exposure.
And they should have never put the word fun in it, because it's not fun at all.
No, it's just raising.
I don't know who
Take
thought
the
of
fun
it.
out of it.
But with Conservatives of Texas, we're trying to change the narrative.
Yes.
I've started saying no more than 10 to win. And I think if you're doing your civic duty and people know what you're doing, they get to know who you are. That would cover 10,000 will cover 1,000 yard signs.
I want to interrupt you really quick before I lose this thought, and then we'll go back to the 10.
Sure.
1,000. You and the groups that you were involved with did so much to help me in a grassroots movement.
Yeah. Well,
and I wouldn't have been in the top 3 if it hadn't been for the grassroots in Amarillo supporting me the way they did.
We have a saying: bigger calves beat bigger wallets. And you were chastised for that. We won't get into it, but you were chastised for that, because there's little flying monkeys all over the city, isn't there?
There are.
And they flat out lied to you. They flat out tried to, but that's a whole other podcast, and it's just nasty.
People
it can be
sometimes
nasty
think
here.
that they're God when they are. And sometimes people think they have more sway in politics in Amarillo than they actually do.
Or than they should.
And,
Well, the no more than 10 to win, I've done the math, and, I could be off a little bit, but I don't know for sure. The big signs, if you get 100 businesses, put your signs up, that's going to be around $4,000 to $5,000. If you get 1,000 yard signs, that's about 4 or 5. That covers the 10, and then your civic contribution to what you've been doing. Because some of these folks, you never ever heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know they're special interest. And when you have in Amarillo, Texas, one individual pouring in $20+ million into the state, and then millions of dollars here locally. I mean, is that really a level playing field? I mean,
before the runoff, it was 1.8 million.
Yeah, is that really a level playing field? I mean, the folks that are out there getting it done in their communities that are asked to run, they can't compete against $400,000.
Firstly, the 10,000 thing sounds nice, but there's so many different problems with campaign finance, which is another podcast, like you said. Never mind the whole First Amendment issues, but grassroots can win as long as there's enough of them.
Yeah.
And if you're going to compete against $2 million,
that's tough.
You need many ground troops. And it's a better campaign. The voters are better informed, but you can't just say you can run on no money if you don't have any people pounding the streets.
Well, the Achilles heel to big money is the knock on the door. See, their grassroots is a mailman. He wears a postal service patch, and they hand out all the mailers. You've seen How many did you get?
I started throwing them away because I
Yeah.
try to keep them because I'm a political person. I
Yeah.
like them, but I mean, I bet I got 30.
There's more than that. I had 40 something.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you,
And there's 3 registered voters at my house. So
big money grassroots is the mailman.
Mhm.
10 to win grassroots. This right here. How you doing? I've talked to voters that said and changed their mind because someone knocked on their door.
absolutely, 100%. But there's got to be enough
You
of
gotta
you.
have them. You got to have them. And I'll tell you, in the smaller races, like the local and the ones that are ×3 and ×4, like AISD and yours, you can, I mean, there was one girl, a lady that ran in the school board, she lost by 4 votes.
Mhm.
I think it was 4 or 5. Our local one was 51. I mean,
But this is an interesting kind of segue to my big beef for the day.
sorry to all the vegetarians out there.
Yeah, I'm not. Your brains aren't working right because you don't have enough protein.
Oh, God. She wasn't talking to me, she's talking to y'all.
Well, I'm allergic to nuts, so I can't be a vegetarian if I wanted to, and I don't. I like a good steak. But here locally-ish in Canyon, Texas, the Canyon ISD, Independent School District, we have so many problems with them as conservatives. We don't like the trash in the library, even though it's state law, nobody listens to it, nobody obeys. We don't get a say in anything. They had a school board member pass away, and instead of going to the people for a replacement, they picked one themselves. And so there's all this junk in Canyon ISD. Do you know that not one of those races was contested this year? There were 3 spots open, and they all ran unopposed. The city of Canyon, back to the city, same thing. I don't have a problem, particularly with the way the city's run. I used to live there. I just moved to Amarillo like 4 years ago. But the whole city council, the whole mayor, the whole school board, no opposed candidacies. The city of Canyon did not have to have an election just now.
Are you saying that Randall County, we didn't prepare for this. You and I didn't practice this at all.
No.
This is all right now. It's happening.
It's
So are you saying what I think you're saying?
I'm saying so many different things, but yes, as far as I'm concerned, no one in the city of Canyon or Randall County has any right to complain about anything.
Okay.
Nobody stepped up. Our leadership didn't
Yes.
step up.
Don't we have a GOP that took credit a couple of years ago for the new slate of the last council members? So what were they thinking when it came to Canyon? I mean, Randall County goes all the way up to Happy,
Yeah.
Texas.
Canyon is wholly included in Randall County, whereas Amarillo is not.
Where's Waldo here? I mean, can we find him?
Well, he's courting the big money that Peggy was alluding to earlier.
Yeah.
The sugar daddy is the only thing that matters to our county chairman.
And I want to be clear, I'm not calling any one person Waldo, but the Waldo guy, you have to find him. I'm not categorizing someone as some type of lack of smarts, because that's not what Waldo is. Waldo is you can't find them. That's all that's implying is I don't know where they at. It's important, right? Because if I remember correctly, they had an issue with some things in their library, right?
Oh yeah, there's junk everywhere,
Yeah. So,
and I'm sure some of those books that we are always railing against the Amarillo City Council exist in the Canyon City Council.
sure.
But this goes into the larger point, and there's a scripture here that I feel inclined to. Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And you have to get involved. You have to, and there's so many hundreds of different ways to be involved. You can work on Peggy's campaign or one like it anywhere in the state. You can run for office yourself. Natalie Grant has a song, Be One. It says, why sit around and wait for a miracle when you can be one? We can't wait. We can't sit around waiting for someone else to pick up the mantle and make a difference in these public offices unless we're willing to be one.
Yeah. Well, we've all heard of the miracle of the Red Sea. The miracle that we all talk about is the parting of the water, but in actuality, the water would have never parted unless the people would have moved towards it.
Mhm.
So people moving is the miracle. You got to get up. Whether people out there are believers or not, you got to do something to make something happen. I mean, it just doesn't make too much sense. I mean, we have Carl here. I just met Carl, and I've known Vivian for maybe 6-8 months now. I don't know. And what is it that propels you guys to? Is it a curiosity? Is it something that? What is it? I mean, do y'all just? What is it for you guys?
For me personally, I've lived here my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's the conversations you have with, family members or people who you go to church with, and it's constantly the same things. Oh, I don't understand why this happened. I don't know why city council or the mayor or whatever. Finally got to the point where I'm like, why are they doing these things? So I started looking into it more and more, and the more I look into the local politics, the more I just get frustrated with how things are going and how they continue to go.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's a lot of just trying to stay informed with everything that's going on, but also trying to get to the bottom of the issues that are actually happening and where we can change that.
Yeah. And
You are the change.
yeah. What about you, Vivian?
For me, I'll say it is morbid curiosity and love of the truth. And the reason why I say morbid is because I've known Carl for over 10 years now. He's my best friend, and even he can attest to this in our conversations. I didn't come into it with trying to understand local happenings. It was because I had a love of history, a love of science, and I saw things that didn't make sense in those realms at high levels. And so investigating that, they always say follow the money. Well, following that money led me to the local politics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got involved in micro issues. And, I was looking at that stuff for so long that I did get an understanding of it to where on a local level, the people doing the activism, going after certain things to make things happen behind closed doors that I disagree with, I understand the psyche of it. And I understand how they came to it because I saw it happen first at large scale, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of me going one-on-one to people, I would sit, okay, the videos that I'm watching, the politicians at the United Nations from 15, 20 years ago making certain statements, and then to see almost the reverse engineering, which is a term that's used. But that's how I came to it. The love of the truth got me here. So
So curiosity killed the cat in a sense.
pretty much.
What kind of pushback are you getting these days? Because now that you've been I guess a type of factor in some of these different venues where I think people are trying to figure out what's her play, what's going on. Is she with this? Is she against this? What's her story? I do know that before too long, they start to figure out that if she's not with us, then maybe she's not necessary. Have you felt any of that?
Not the not necessary part, but as far as pushback goes, like I said, he can attest to this. Seeking that truth from a young age ostracized me from a young age. But back then it was, you're just a kid, get with the program, accept what we're telling you. And we had some of these issues even back then. I had teachers blatantly tell me, that's the wrong answer, but you need to answer that way. That got me in trouble because I said, I'm not doing that. That doesn't make sense to me. Explain that to me. So for me, it's been a longer journey, but I think because I came to it at the angle I came into it, some of the stuff I'm seeing now doesn't bother me.
And I will say you do have, she does have stick factor because my son's seen a video with you and us in it. And he goes, she's always been like that. She's always been,
Yeah.
I went to school with her at Tascosa, and I remember her always moving the needle of thought. You know, that's not really the words he used, but that's what he was saying. And he was calm about it. It wasn't bothersome. Some people, it bothers them to the degree, oh, they're always complaining. No, he said, actually, she made us all think about stuff. That's dangerous
Yeah.
to a world that is trying to get folks to conform to a certain venue of not thought, of zombieism, if you will. Just
Yeah.
do it and shut up. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So the local election, you know, me personally, I'm not going to get into personalities or anything of that nature. My thing was, after about 7:15, 7:30, it was hard to really figure out what the numbers were. And you would get one report in, said 33%. And then
From the
another
original
one,
election, not the runoff.
and another one would say 79%. I mean, I get it. You're getting different sources of information, but it really doesn't take too long to get to get on your phone and get to one centralized source and find all this. Why is it taking 2 hours if everything's automated on the machine? I don't understand that.
Well, in this particular case, firstly, you're absolutely right. This is stupid. But there are two counties involved. So I think one county was reporting faster than another county.
Yeah, but 2 hours?
I
3
agree.
hours?
I agree. You send a press release to the news outlets and you're done.
All of 10 minutes. I mean, when you're calculating on your phone, you put, 1,816, and then you add the other one, 2,312. It's instantaneous. I mean, it takes a matter of 40 seconds, if that. And then you add some phone calls, you got 5 minutes. Come on. Why is it taking 2 hours? I was getting so frustrated because some of the numbers were flipping too. And I'm going, whoa, what happened there? And then you looked at the totals and I'm like, wow, can we just get.
Well, 2 years ago, the broadcast media was actually reporting a set of numbers that literally before our very eyes flipped.
I remember that. It was 40-60 in 2 races. Almost the same number.
There was like 147 vote difference between the victors and the losers in the runoff 2 years ago, which that's another rabbit trail that we don't want to follow right now. For people that may not know, I am a precinct chair, but in a previous life, I was a professional political person. I ran campaigns statewide. I managed a statewide party. I was the director of public affairs for a nationwide issue group. And when I left politics, I was the chief of staff to the United States Congressman in Washington, D.C. And only reason I'm throwing that in there is because I'm speaking from a great deal of experience that your average semi-rural precinct chair doesn't have. And we got to fix it. We got problems right here in Randall County. When we go to the Randall County Republican Party is by law managed by the Central Executive Committee, the CEC. And Alex and I are precinct chairs, and he said, there's a few more members of our group that are as well. But we're not allowed to talk at our meetings. Literally, we are duly seated elected precinct chairs, and we are not allowed to talk at the CEC meeting. We are required to give the person who doesn't deserve the title, so I won't give it to him, that allegedly runs our meetings, we have to give him 72 hours notice before we talk. So I know for a fact that this happens elsewhere in the state. And because the Conservative Texas podcast does have a very wide reach, I do want to largely keep this more non-geographical specific. I mean, we have our problems in Randall County. Please be very clear we do. But they exist elsewhere too. And one of the things that we're up in arms with at our local party is Rule 44. Rule 44 is a state Republican Party rule that says if you are censured, you can be censured by your local party for not adhering to the beliefs that are outlined in our Republican Party platform. And if you are censured by whichever level of party you are censured at, you can no longer access Republican resources anywhere. You can't have any money from the Republican Party. We can't put you at a seat at a table with a microphone in front of you. So we have tried to adopt Rule 44 in Randall County, and we're not even allowed to talk about it. I mean, he gave you 5 minutes, and he set a timer. And you were mid-sentence when your 5 minutes ran out, and that was it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But in that circumstance, if we were able to do Rule 44, we could have censured one of the city council candidates for being openly pro-choice, and that candidate would not have been included in a Republican Party forum.
Yeah.
They don't get to speak at Republican events. They don't get to borrow our platforms.
And just so you guys know something about that, I mean, he was also endorsed by our GOP without any one of us voting on it. We did raise a stink. They took the logo off, and the next mailer that went out was only 2.
But all the banners and big signs and everything else on websites everywhere listed that this candidate had the endorsement of the Randall County Republican Party.
Yeah.
And that was blatantly false or blatant abuse of power. It's a lot of buck passing. Well, I didn't say they could do it. Well, I didn't have you do that. Well, I didn't. Well, somebody got our logo and put it on your poster, so let's figure it out. We're just done. And it's not just here in Randall County. It's not just with the County Republican Party. It is statewide. Anyone that is to the right of center is probably upset about what the state legislature did or did not do. And right from the get-go of electing, Phelan's number 2 as our speaker, some of us saw that writing on the wall. But anyways, and everything that happened after that is pure corruption. This is something that one of our friends in I don't know if it's Lubbock or Abilene invented this, and I love it. Trans Republicans. And this is worse than a rhino, because a rhino is a Republican that's just not quite as conservative as me, that's in my parlance. But a trans Republican is a Democrat who puts on Republican clothes to hide his true nature. So I love this phrase. Anyways, putting that aside. Statewide, we have a problem. The state party is not sticking up for us. The state legislature is not sticking up for us. And that starts right here, right now, at groups like this all over the state. You can run for precinct chair. And 9 times out of 10, there's nobody running anyways. But look at your voter registration card. You can go to votetexas.org to see what your precinct is and see if you have a precinct chair in your precinct. If you don't, you submit an application. You can start submitting those applications on September 9th. Okay, so it's coming. This is a literally the closest elected official to the people. And the government closest to the people is always the best form of government. But from this space, you get to have an influence. You get to have a vote in what happens in your county, in your Senate district, and in the state Republican Party. And you get to have a say in, like we were talking about. If we had been asked, we would not have let this pro-choice Republican speak at our stuff or take up space on our website with a podcast. And so, obviously that's a problem. If you have a county chairman that's a problem, it can be fixed. They run for re-election in the primary of 26. And that filing date starts in October, but precinct chairs starting in September. This can be done, okay? And there is the money versus the grassroots. It can all be done. But outsiders are in vogue right now. So if you're not a political person, it's a great time to get involved because people like non-political people running for office. And there's so many factors involved. But one of the things that I encourage people on is, what is your issue? Maybe as many as 3, but pick one. Right here, right now, my big issue, while I am 100% pro-life, okay, like Peggy said, you do have a choice. You can keep your legs closed, I mean, that's just, keep your pants on, whatever. But my big thing right now is paper ballots. I'm looking at the returns from the election that was yesterday, and I don't see how Potter County had almost as many voters as Randall County. I actually believe that more people voted in the runoff than voted in the main election on election day, which is perfectly legal. You can do that. But did you really turn out that many votes? I looked it up here just
I think it was something like 1169 versus 2128 or something like that. Let me look. But one thing you want to take note is the mail-in ballots. And Potter was a lot more than Randall. It was 100 to like 50.
And this is, y'all, Potter County, the Potter County segment of Amarillo doesn't vote. Y'all live up there, don't you?
Yeah.
How many? I bet you would not run out of fingers counting the number of people voted.
I
that
can't tell
election.
you a single person I know that cared about the runoff or even paid attention to it. Once the voting was done, that was it. And I mean, the people who talked about that election before the runoff are the people who vote every time, which is not a whole lot of people in Potter.
No.
And somehow 4,600 of them showed up to vote for the runoff.
Do you have your calculator on those phones that I could use real quick? So add these up. This is Potter County, yesterday's total. Potter County. Add 1689 to 1459.
You're already doing it.
3148.
3148.
I don't see that.
3,048 showed up for Potter. And then Randall, it's 2971 and 3150. But see, the mail-in ballots for Randall, for one candidate was 245 and the other was 240. But in Potter, the mail-in was 101 for one candidate and 58 for the other. It's a huge difference. That made the difference. You do the math, it made the difference. Was that 45 votes or something like that?
So if a candidate somehow managed to get extra mail-in ballots sent in, and they could be legitimate or not, it made a difference. And everybody knew it was going to be like that. Everybody knew it was going to be this tight, and everybody knew what they were looking at. And these numbers are just flat wrong. And if you're watching from a different city under different names,
When you say they're flat wrong,
Are you
what do
asking if
mean
I
by
can tell you what time it is in a different city?
I'm not asking Google to tell me nothing.
Listen.
what do you mean when you say they're flat wrong? I mean, what do you?
This makes no sense. We've never seen turnout like this
Yeah.
in a city election
Mhm.
where Potter had almost as many as Randall.
What was the total for Randall? Did you get that?
20, or
He had it in there.
Okay.
you have history.
So you're saying about 1,500 probably
Versus-
difference.
No, because I didn't press equal.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's probably about 1,500 difference, but
Yeah, and that it should be, I mean, we would expect 80-20, 80% in Randall and 20% in Potter.
Mhm.
And suddenly we have 60-40.
Yeah.
Now, is there something wrong? I don't know. Am I going to find out? You bet your ass I'm going to find out. And so that's what I'm telling you. If it's not here, if it's in your, those of us watching this podcast later on, if you have similar concerns, you got to dig in. What's going wrong? But paper ballots, day of elections, would fix it. You almost can't commit fraud with paper ballots, day of election. And that is what my pet project is right now, because every other problem in the state and the country and the city and the county and everywhere else can be solved if we can actually have legitimate, fair, accurate elections.
Well, what we'll need to add and implement to that is one time, one count. This whole hourly thing's got to stop. You have to put 4 people in 4 different areas, and their totals better come up the same. If they're not, then there's a problem. There's no reason that the math wouldn't equate because math don't lie.
Mhm.
I mean, if this person over in this area, the total is 5,060, that person over there and that person over there and that person, it should be the same total. You don't share that total with anybody. You put that in the little box And then you open it one time and make sure all 4 of the numbers total. And if they don't, you got a problem. And it's one count, one time. This whole media stuff, giving you updates every hour on the hour, I think that helps with harvesting. You know what I mean? I'm not saying the media is involved in anything, but I think it does help the people to know what they need to make up for, oh, we're down 60 votes. We got to go get some more harvested ballots. So you have to have one time, one count, and that's it.
And
also,
we know for certain that happened in the 2020 campaign in other states. Voter fraud is not as bad in Texas as it is elsewhere, but I think we're starting to see more and more of it. And I do not know about anybody else's elected officials. The Randall County elected official, I actually trust her. I just don't trust the machines. I think that the malfeasance on the machine is way above her pay grade, but I believe it can be done. And there's a lot of malcontent about the paper ballots things that's just not valid. And we need to write that on another list of podcasts to do, because we've got so much to say about that. We've got extensive training. But you can beat these people, okay? Incumbents can be beat at any level with the right combination of money and grassroots. And it could be heavy on one or not, or equal on both, or whatever. But don't give up, and don't give in, and don't throw your hands up. I can't tell you how many times I woke up in the last 4 years thinking, okay, I'm done. And then usually it's his fault. He calls me and tells me something. I said, oh, I didn't really want to know that. And so off we go again. And that's from a seasoned professional. You think I've seen it all. And it is so bad.
And I've already spoke to our sheriff. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the reason that it's so bad, if you really keep boiling it down and going down to the granular, ungodly people are going to do ungodly things. Period.
Well, here's the reality.
And if we want godly outcomes, then godly people have got to run for office.
Yeah, but the people counting, though, if they're not able to,
but even there, how many people are willing to volunteer to do those things?
Because here's the issue with what we have is supposed to be this fail-safe in the machines, is that there's seals on it.
But think about this, because I was in Georgia.
Yeah.
I was asked to go to Georgia for the runoff in 2020. And we knew we were knocking doors. And I mean, I was running in between doors, because if Loeffler and Perdue won, then we had conservatives had the Senate. If Ossoff and Warnock won, we did not have control of the Senate. And so I was running, I was telling people, I'm from Texas. I came all the way. I can't vote, but you can. Please get out and vote, and please, vote conservatively. And every day, and it does it here too on the different programs that they use, the software. They knew every day who had voted. How? If it's not turned in. If it's not turned in until
that's
the day.
That's the interesting thing about the seal on these machines, is if it's counted and safe, why do you need a seal on it? That means somebody can go in and corrupt it.
Well, and our voting
Why do you
machines,
have a seal
Or
on
if
it?
it's cellular, it doesn't matter if it's sealed.
Yeah.
and we
so-
need to add this to, I need to write this down. It's that important. Our door knocking activities is, you need to read your ballot in Randall County before you put it in the machine.
Yeah.
And if there's a recount, and we kind of expect there will be, given which side of the fence the big money is on in this particular election, I want you all to acknowledge the amount of self-control I have over my mouth. Is you got to make sure it says that. If they do a recount, they're not scanning the name. They never scan the name. They scan the little barcode in the corner. And that's where the programming can be corrupted. However, you can actually pay big enough money to manually count instead of scanning them. And that's why when you're voting in Randall County, at least in anybody that has machines like ours, make sure it says. I mean, I grudgingly went and cast a ballot yesterday. I'm an early voter, but I just couldn't decide. And I went in there to vote, because how can I not? I can't stand here and complain and light fires everywhere if I'm not willing to vote. So I went in there and voted, and I made sure the person I pressed the button for was written on the page and put it in the machine. You've got to do that. But you see, this is education, stuff that our Randall County Republican Party should be doing.
Well, there is a grassroots effort that everyone can be involved in. It's really easy. You tell your friends, whoever you know, to ask a simple question of whoever they're talking to. And there's a canvas out there. I've already spoken to Sheriff Forbes about this. He said he would look into it if we got the numbers. I said, would 20 be enough? He said, yes. So there is a soft audit that you can do. And the canvas that Randall County presents, I don't know how Potter's looks, but there's a timestamp on everyone that voted from 8:30 to 9:30 to 10:30. It has their name on it. And it comes out and you can see it. You can't see how they voted. You can just see where they voted and what time they voted. It's a timestamp. You said you could probably get phone numbers for that.
Well, I mean, if you're not in a position with somebody that's electronically connected like me, you can look them up.
And so then what you do is you call and thank them for voting. And what you do is you break that list up into teams of 10, and each person just randomly calls 50 people. That's 500 folks. And of the 500, if you get 20 that said, I didn't vote, you know what? I was out of town. What do you mean I'm on a canvas that shows me voting at 6:30? I mean, at 6:30 in the evening over at Comanche Trail. What do you mean? That's one. Then you go until you get to 20. We turn that into the sheriff, and we go from there.
And in our case, I mean, we can get the list of roughly 9,300 votes that were cast yesterday.
And it just keeps everything
Or cast
honest.
through yesterday.
And when everything's kept honest, the paper ballots is going to certainly help create firewalls. But even then, you got to understand that as much as paper ballots do make it a little harder to do, because you're not screwing with the totals from a ship out there in the middle of the ocean or wherever the heck they're at. You have to do it more localized. You have to be kind of in the area. It can still be done because they did it in the 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? With the odometer, you've heard of that with the Birch Society. That they were already presetting the odometer. They already had 800 votes already in there. So the new votes were just adding to the 800. And so they would always have that margin.
And the way that Project 61, I think, in Texas had it worked out, there's no machines at all. It is literally, it's really fascinating to watch the video they put out.
Yeah.
They literally put the ballot on clothespins, and it goes up and down the aisle.
Yeah.
And 4 different people are counting the same ballots with literally hashtags-ish. And
Yeah, it can be done.
it does not take that long either. If you look how much money we spend doing elections now, it would not cost much more. And volunteers would be perfect for judges and whatnot, but we pay election people.
Mhm.
All we gotta do is pay them less and 2 per precinct. And maybe as precinct chairman, it's my job to get that person. Maybe it is a volunteer.
Yeah.
Maybe I do it myself as a precinct chairman.
And don't let any party ever tell you that it has to do with, the other side. In your primaries, in your respective party, you can go paper all day long and twice on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what bothers me about the GOP. I'm thinking to myself, well, we could go paper ballot anytime we want.
On a primary, those are run by the.
They always put on the
county.
commissioners, and I'm like, yeah, but you can do it yourself. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a great example to show the commissioners if you did want them to utilize a budget for that. Show them 3 or 4 times. This is how you're doing it. This is how we can do it, and this is the template. So in the primary, you could always do paper ballots. Why they have it goes to show you that maybe there's some funkiness going on.
Beyond lazy, which is also a thing, but there's people in our area, county commissioners included, do not think there's a problem. So if that's true in your election officials all around the state or, elsewhere in the panhandle or wherever, you got to prove it's a problem.
Yeah.
When we're done, I'm going to put my Facebook profile address in the comments, and anywhere across the state, if you need a little guidance, just connect with me on Facebook and we can give you a little guidance, because this is just so ridiculous.
We're speaking about raising up candidates and whatnot. Here as of recent, Ken King, he didn't bring that legislation out of committee.
Mhm.
And, some of us called down to the office and emailed as well, and he still wouldn't do it. Some do blame others, but I mean, if one person is going to be tasked to getting it all done,
He was the chair.
then what do you need all these other elected officials for? I think the elected officials in their respective areas need to stand up and do the right thing. And, Ken King has been endorsed. I don't know which pro-life group it is, but I mean, are they going to endorse them next time around? I mean, for keeping this.
Well, it's because just like anything else, they're indebted to their donors.
Yeah.
But this whole Ken King thing the way you phrase the question brings an important point. The reason it got stuck there is because of the rules that Burroughs shoved down everybody's throat at the beginning of the session. They were not allowed to.
Nevertheless, Ken King, why didn't he just?
I agree completely. But if you have a chairman causing problems, if the rules weren't so restrictive and liberal,
Mhm.
I mean, parliamentary procedure is practically gone in Austin
Mhm.
because of these rules.
Well, I think that whoever's endorsing him from these pro-life groups are going to have to be asked the question as
We
to
see.
why.
And to my point, who's going to run against him? He's not in our, we can't. So just, he's not ours. But who's going to run against him? We can't sit around tables like this and complain.
Mhm.
We've got to take it to the next step.
Well, we do have some victories I want to make mention of. And this is from Mark Lee Dixon, his Facebook. I want to read it real quick. He put this out 5 days ago, and just to bring everyone up to speed, it says the 89th legislative session of the Texas legislature has come to a close. While we did not see the passage of Senator Brian Hughes' SB 2880, which is what we're talking about here with Ken King, which would have allowed for lawsuits against those who are found sending or trafficking abortion-inducing drugs into our state. We did see many other good pro-life bills pass during this legislative session. Here's the bullet points. Senator Donna Campbell, SB 33, prohibits cities like Austin and San Antonio from using taxpayer dollars to fund abortion trafficking organizations who are covering the travel expenses for abortion-minded women traveling outside the state of Texas. Thank you, Donna Campbell, for that.
It should have said women and girls. Just
Minors. Next bullet point, Senator Lois Coldcourse, SB 1388, prohibits organizations from promoting abortion from receiving funding through the Thriving Texas Family Program, formerly known as the Alternatives to Abortion Program. Texas budget sets aside $200 million for pregnancy centers, adoption agencies, and maternity homes who are seeking to help pregnant mothers who find themselves in an unexpected pregnancy. So that pushes back on all the folks that are saying, well, are you going to adopt them? Are you going to take care of them? Well, there's an answer for that. Notice the last two are both women so far. You know what I mean? The next one is as a male. And, the go-to for the others, well, who are you as a man, right? But the first two are women. Senator Brian Hughes, SB 31, provides clarity on Texas pro-life laws and requires doctors and medical attorneys to receive further education on Texas pro-life laws in order that they may not delay proper treatment to pregnant mothers who are experiencing a life-threatening medical emergency. There's more. There's about 5 or 6 more. The thing is
That bill does nothing.
that a lot of
It
folks
does nothing.
are kind of
It's
missing
hospital policy.
is
They change the definition in the policy.
what I heard during our Prop A time and time again was ectopic pregnancies. So I looked into it. And as a believer, I thought to myself, well, why would the Lord create this problem such as ectopic? What's going on there? Why would that even be something that was being thrown out so often from the opposition to this? So I looked into it, and I found out that a particular STD called chlamydia is so dangerous because of the fact that when people are promiscuous, they're going to eventually get an STD. But the thing is that chlamydia has almost no symptoms. You don't know. And what it does is it destroys your reproductive organs as a female. And here I'm listening to these folks on the other side say all this,
Lies, let's be clear.
these valiant talking points as you don't care for women that develop ectopic pregnancy. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you're not educating the ones that you're putting on birth control, that there is something out there called chlamydia, you're almost increasing the chances of them dying down the road because they get into that situation.
Mm.
So aren't you really the one that's causing this problem? It's not us that are trying to end all this. Why aren't you being open and honest with these females? Because they get on birth control and they're like, well, I'm not going to get pregnant. That's good. I don't want to get pregnant. And sure enough, they don't get pregnant. But 5 years down the road, when they hit 19, 20 years old and they finally do want to start a family, now they're at risk of ectopic, and we're the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
When you knew this whole entire time that being promiscuous in that manner is probably going to cause them to get chlamydia, which gives absolutely almost no symptoms.
It's ridiculous.
You're setting them up to fail. Who's the monster here?
Well, in our case, it was the people that were lying about ectopic pregnancies. Vivian, tell us what it matters most to you in selecting a candidate or choosing to work for a candidate to get them elected, or
Integrity, truth, and honesty. And politics is a beast where that eliminates 95% of people running. And I saw it in just the forums I went to this time around. And I mentioned the change of how people move from one week to the next, and now what's coming out about them. But I saw it then, and I thought it was an interesting thing to watch. I call names, but I'm me, so I'm not affiliated with nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was when we were at the over North Heights at that forum,
Mhm.
and it struck me in the moment after Misty Collier spoke, and I believe it wasn't Tim Reed, it was the older gentleman with the glasses that was there.
Shirley?
Tom Shirley?
No, skinny, kind of balding. Was currently on the city council. He was sitting next to Nene. And they were talking about their military history. And at one point, it was almost like they were joking about it, like it was an inside joke. And the statement was made, well, it comes down to who's more qualified. And it was like a joke. They all giggled. And then he said, well, we're all really qualified. But he said it as if it was a joke. And just because time restraint, I wanted to get this in there. Politics is a beast where just in the last 20 years, people who are not conservative, but as you mentioned earlier, anything right of center is labeled conservative. And so I think there's people who are technically centrist or whatever. They're not Democrat, but they're getting thrown into these categories. And so they are using those categories as vehicles because of the beast that is politics. And that's part of the problem there and part of that communication. Because when they said that, I asked, someone to say, what are the qualifications to run for a city council chair? Because all these people just laughed about the qualifications. And then several of them told me with a straight face, holding a city council seat means nothing. And I remember that vividly because anytime something was said about, well, we can't blame them. And, you know, we don't make any money. This is voluntary. We have no power. So then why would I vote for you? Why are you running for this office if it holds no power? What are you trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. And I looked it up. There's so few qualifications. Anyone can run for office. But because of how the beast is, when, like you talked about money, once you get in there, well, you don't have any money. Who are you? Who's backing you? Who's supporting you? Mm-hmm. Grassroots is really the only option for certain people. But then you run into, well, what's your job? What's your income? What's your education level? But none of those are the actual qualifications. Mm-hmm. So for me, the major thing, what I look for is that integrity. Because, and I believe you were there when I said it, I hate a fake civilian, I hate a fake patriot, and I hate a fake soldier. Mm-hmm. You say things because you're trying to gain that support, but you don't really mean it. Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes into the fake conservative, the fake mm-hmm. Republican. You just want to utilize the brand or the image, mm-hmm. but that's not who you are.
That's a very interesting sentence. Utilize the brand.
The brand. And from my end, that's why so many people don't vote, because they'll say, kind of like in my case, I supported you going in, and then I noticed the day and night. Mm-hmm. I can't trust you. Behind closed doors, I can't trust you. You did that in public. I can't trust you.
So you'd be pretty upset if you found out that some of these that are running for no pay, that have admitted that there's no power, that are just trying to move diagonal and become a congressman at some point, you know, or, you know, state representative. They're just using this as a stepping stone and basically using the people in a roundabout way. So that would be something that's very upsetting.
Yeah, and when I say, that's why I say my whole thing, or what do you call it, my hill to die, is education.
Sure.
And because again, I confuse people. Well, you went here and you talked to them. You're cool with them, so you must be one of them. I'm really not. Mm-hmm. But they're more truthful than the other ones, mm-hmm. so we get along. But it's different. And so I try to educate them, saying, okay, you like this person. Look into what they do versus what they say. Mm-hmm. Look at what they said here and what they said 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. Look at who they associate with in their business dealings, because certain people say things and then they operate in a different capacity. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the breakdown and why people just don't vote, don't associate, even when they do agree with well, I support what you're doing, but I'm not going to help you do it, but I support. It's because of what people don't want to talk about. Politics has completely stepped away from the citizen population in a way that I don't think people recognize. It's not that everyone is bad in politics. But
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's the beast of politics.
Mm-hmm.
It's the game playing. It's we have to move a certain way. And I see it, you know, people will go in, they want to do the right thing, but eventually money runs out and you're dealing with big sharks in a little pool. And because there's the separation there, that grassroots isn't going to be there because, well, they saw how you flip-flopped in public. Mm-hmm. Why they don't care.
Jordan Peterson. And I like to, have you ever listened to Jordan Peterson?
Yep.
He says, if someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that consistency, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and that's why some people don't want to run, mm-hmm. honestly, because they haven't had personal integrity. Mm-hmm. And they know that they can be found out.
I see.
It's how we live our lives every day matters.
Yeah.
That, or there's natural born leaders and there are fake leaders. And I've seen people who, they don't seek leadership positions because they truly want to change things. They want the privileges that come with those mm-hmm. positions. Mm-hmm. So they do what they have to say to get into certain positions. Mm-hmm. They don't want the responsibility. They can't handle the responsibility. They will do the job as it benefits them. And so in my own personal life, I've seen it play out. Mm-hmm. Even at small scale, at like do business dealing with union representatives, I've seen it. Mm-hmm. You know, a natural leader will stand up. They will try to get something done. But even then, it's the issue of how you say, a natural leader is willing to go to a certain length that the average person can't or is not willing to go to.
Mhm.
Some people are not willing to give up their job to go and hold a political office that pays you $5 a meeting.
Mhm.
Even if they know that's what should happen so that there is honesty and integrity, they are recognizing that there are certain things currently in place that prevent them from engaging. And so sometimes I do feel like there's a breakdown there. And, you know, on that end, that's how the other side, the enemy, whoever you want to view it, that's how they were able to get where they got. Because they went out and protest. And I know a lot of people say protest does nothing,
Mhm.
but it did. That's why we're at where we're at. Because they went out there yelling and banging on pots and pans, yelling. You couldn't ignore them even if you wanted to. So there are people with ideas in their head now. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's because they've heard so many people say it and say it loudly that it's stuck in their head.
If you say something loud enough and long enough.
It only takes, like, you know, it only
7 to 11
takes,
times.
it only takes, I'm forgetting the analogy, but it only takes one thing. You know, growing up, they'll tell you, well, it only takes one voice to change a generation. Does it though? Because when this person went, you claimed that they didn't have a high enough education to understand the issues at play.
Mhm.
Or you say that, but then you said, well, they don't work in an industry that pays enough, so they don't understand what it's like to be a billionaire, so they can't possibly
Right.
understand taxes.
To your point, the city council is not powerless. That's a lot.
You set taxes and
But,
you vote
yeah.
on the person that you're claiming owns power in the city,
City
and you
manager.
have no power? Sure, buddy.
And the org chart of the city is the city council, then the manager.
Sure, buddy.
Now, the manager has day-to-day.
chart of the city is the city
council.
Instant replay.
It was so good, we had to play it twice.
But the city manager answers to the city council. So everybody who said that to you, that's their first lie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that was most of the
Most of
people
them.
at the forums. That was their go-to line. Oh well, the city manager,
it-
they don't listen to
Because
it.
once it got a little too hot with the citizens asking questions,
Yeah.
well, we can't talk very badly about them, and we don't understand the decision they made. And oh, wait a minute, you're running for city council. You don't know the issues because you're hearing stuff firsthand from us. These people are telling you they don't care about sidewalks. Their houses are sinking into the ground.
Yeah.
And you're flip-flop. Well, we can't blame them for the choices they make. Well, who can we blame? Because you're the one sitting in office. You want me to vote for you. I guess I won't vote for you. Well, we need you to go vote. Sure, bud. It's the disillusionment with politics. And
I still look
It's
forward to
odd.
exploring this further because from our perches as precinct chairs,
Yeah.
we need to know how to reach people like you.
Yes.
That you care and you're informed and, you know, off camera, don't answer it now. Off camera, I want the answer. What are y'all going to run for? Don't answer it now. I don't want an answer.
the caveat, we're Potter County.
Yep.
So we're
Not
over
even.
there. We're dealing with different people, different
Mhm.
beasts over there,
Mhm.
which we're finding out more and more every day.
Yeah.
Our commissioners aren't even aware of things they should be aware of over there. Anyway.
Commissioners do make money, at least in Randall County. We had some disagreement whether it's 48 or 74 or something, but they do actually get paid and they get a really, really luscious retirement package. So that's something to consider.
Well, you shall know them by their fruit, is what the word talks about.
Mhm.
And in the world, you know, one thing that I have brought to some people's attention is, you know, don't tell me what you're doing, or don't tell me what you want to do. Show me what you've done.
Right.
And the outcomes, you can never really fake that, because it is it's the product of
Right.
the previous year or whatever the case is. What has actually occurred, and what we're trying to get into in terms of Texas and our precincts, we really should be doing this out of the precincts, honestly, because if we're going to bring a forum to the table for them to get support from voters, we should start holding their feet to the fire when it comes to where are we at today? You know, 5 months ago when you were running for office, it was exciting what you're bringing to the table. How's it looking? How are we looking on that? You know, because about 2 and 3 months ago, about 2 years and 3 months ago, we had a community connect pertaining to the North Heights and the water pressure issue and infrastructure. And the reason we had that was because when we inquired of the then city council folks, we were told that it was on a 10-year plan. And I thought, well, I'd like to hear the rollout of that 10-year plan. Do tell. And now we have it on video. It's recorded. That's a problem because anyone can go on our YouTube. Hopefully they subscribe, but you don't have to. But here's the thing, it's there. It's there.
Mhm.
And when you get into the 4th year, the 5th year, and we still have the same issue and the same problems, and that person is running for re-election or whatever the case is, we can hold them to task. Now, the one thing I don't like about how they set up nominations and appoint folks, if you really break that system down, it's really them pointing to someone else besides themselves. I'm appointing to him because I didn't get it done. The problem is, but you said it. You said you campaigned on this.
Mhm.
And I don't like this whole appointment situation because really I think it was set up to really not hold themselves accountable, apparently, so I know there's a lot of departments and 5 individuals on the city council can't possibly get it done. I get it, but maybe don't say it. Maybe don't say it.
Maybe don't run if you can't keep that many balls in the air.
If you don't think you have authority and you're not getting paid, why are you running?
And why
And I will say
are these
something-
campaigns worth $1.8 million?
For a position, it means nothing.
That makes sense. What was you gonna say?
Yeah. I'm going to give a different perspective, coming from what I thought that I could do
Mhm.
to what I found out that I could or could not
Yeah.
do. What qualifies someone? The true answer is the classes and the training that I get after I'm elected. That's what really qualifies you to be on the city council or on the board or a state representative. There are people, and I think they have good intentions, that make promises. They find out later they can't keep them
Mhm.
because they don't have that authority. And so I think it's important for that person to come back and say, I thought I could do this.
Yeah.
Transparency, which is, we lack a lot of that today.
Transparency.
Yeah.
And to be able to say that, now, how do they get that out? That's a whole nother thing that goes into news outlets and what's controlled there. But I think it's important to let people know and to stay involved as a member of the community. An elected official still needs to stay involved in the community and still needs to listen to the people
Mhm.
and hear from them. It's not that we're supposed to say, well, I'm a regent and I can't
Mhm.
do anything about that. That's what we are told that we should say. However, I want to make sure that when I give this information to the board chair or I give it to the college president, and I really like our college president that we have now. The former president
Mhm.
had a derogatory name for me, and then he threw Irene into the same
Mhm.
category.
You made it plural.
And I made it plural. And he had no idea that I knew.
Mm.
And then when he said, if this category gets elected, I'm out of here.
Mhm.
And it only took one more person.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So there's power that you have that you don't know you have. And there's power you think you might have that you don't necessarily. but I still represent the people
Mhm.
of Amarillo at Amarillo College. When I'm operating in that position, and again, I'm not representing the Board of Regents here, but as a regent,
Mhm.
just as a city council is supposed to represent the whole city, not just a section of it. It's important to be able to communicate.
Mhm.
And it's important, and I'm put this plug in, it's important for us as citizens of our community to attend meetings. You know how many people attend the Board of Regents meetings?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
4 at the most.
Mhm.
And it's been the same 4.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
And there's one that's been there, I think, just about every meeting,
Mhm.
but very few. So how do they know what's going on? You know, we've got to get, in my opinion, the precinct chairs should divide out, and they should be
Mhm.
responsible for what's going on, what they're
Yeah,
hearing,
rotation.
and communicating to their precincts what they're
Well,
hearing.
see,
and seeing
as
and
precinct
saying.
chairs, we don't get any communications. The state party sends information to the county chair, who's supposed to send it to us and doesn't. And, I mean, we don't get information, and there is no active, progressive, get on the ground grassroots effort in our county. In fact, he said in his very first meeting, he said grassroots is meaningless. The only thing that matters is PAC money. He actually said that out loud. I recorded it. So everything I say I can prove. But this coalesces again. Y'all need to listen, and y'all need to talk, but y'all need to be educated so you know what to say.
Yeah.
So this is another place where you can help us. How do we educate?
So the big part about going to the meetings, because even the people who, at least where I'm at, are involved, and this is the complaint they have, and they go to these things when they can, the time.
Mhm.
And that's where I say the beast that it is, because on the back end, you get into city making deals with companies about certain things, making sure they put certain things in their contracts with their employees. Why aren't you making sure employees can get off work in time to go vote? Why aren't you making sure they have the time to go and be in these meetings that are supposed to be about us? And it's a cycle. And at least over there, the people that even try to go to that struggle to get there. They have to leave work. They have to quit jobs and take other jobs that fit better the setup we have just as politics.
And even
So it's a
transportation issues from that
Transportation
corner.
So it's a whole shaboodle.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
before I close out, I'm going to ask you guys to give me a number as to how many days our elected officials, I'm not talking about city council, I'm talking about, Congress and whatnot. How many days do you really think that they work, and how much do you think they get paid a day? This is for the $174,000 salary that they get. What do y'all think?
You're talking about in a year?
Just daily. What do you
The
think-
average
what do you think that
person, are we
number-
talking about individuals or?
So they get paid $174,000 a
Congressman.
year.
United States House of
And so
Representatives.
when we break that down daily, what do you think that comes up to? If you're going to guess
20,000?
a day,
Mhm.
$20,000 a day.
Because they work 10 days.
Yeah. That's why I was like, you want the average? Because
They-
some of them work
If you
more
broke
than
down
others.
how much they work, because I highly doubt
defines
they're
as work?
working every day a year.
What are they defining
It's-
as work
it's-
too?
There's a crunch time, and I'm
Well,
sure we all.
Peggy said
It's
2,000.
2,000, not 20.
Yeah. So it's like,
2,000.
what are they defining as
Okay.
work
So it's
versus what
roughly,
they're actually,
it's about $1,300 a day. How many days do you think they work out of the year?
Like the whole day, very few. Like really, I'm
So
I'm
total-
sure there are
so total-
days when they're probably working like
I hear about
8
a
hours
lot of
day when
vacations.
it's crunch time right before
So
they go to session or
it-
something. But
It comes down to 124 days that they work out of the year. I know that seems very, very low,
Well,
but it
it is
really
very,
is.
very,
that's
very
full
low.
like
But
8-hour
As a
days,
servant
though.
of the people and all the stuff we're dealing with, that's how many days
It's
a year
so
you
wild.
work. That's crazy.
Because they get 18 weeks vacation. They get 18
It's not
weeks.
vacation.
Well, what is it?
They're in the district.
That gives
Good
them-
ones will be in the district talking to their people. They have district hours. It's
They're
not
their
just
vacation?
Washington hours. No. It's work.
So they
They
get
Good ones.
Good
Not all
ones.
of them.
so they get 104 days off. That's their weekend.
They get 104 days
Weekends.
out of DC.
That's what I say, what do you define as work? Because some of them say they're working, they're just chilling on a beach somewhere.
Well, when they're working, burning the midnight oil, and they're passing things on Friday nights, I don't know if that's working or if that's just
Well, the
being
Senate brought stuff up to vote at
shady.
12:35 Saturday morning. Not all reps are good. We know that
No.
very clearly.
Well, the
But just
point
because
I'm
they're not
trying
in
to make-
Washington does not mean they're not working.
The point I'm trying to make is not to, disparage the good ones at all, because there's many out there that do a lot of good work. Representative Lowe, I really think he's really kicking butt, as well as a few others. But I think back and I go, man, I should have went to school for political science. I mean, that's the gig.
Right.
That's
could've
the
paid off your
gig.
But
college
that's the
bill
exact
that
kind of
way.
person we don't want elected. We want you elected. We want you
Non-leaders
elected.
in leadership
And you,
positions
and
for
me.
privileges.
Apparently that's what, but
Because if you're smart, you go for money. That's what my mom told me. Go be a doctor or a lawyer because they make money. They lie all day.
yeah, I think it was Jesse the Body Ventura's dad when he was running for governor of Minnesota. He said, "Son, it don't make sense." He says, "Dad, what do you mean?" He says, "Who spends 10 times more than what they're going to make on their salary for that position? Who spends millions of dollars to make just 10% of that?" And makes you kind of wonder a little bit. So the outcomes, we really have to press these individuals as far as the outcomes. And,
And again, that applies to every elected official and every level all over the state.
mhm,
Yes, we've got some,
you're doing
yeah,
your
around
thing.
this table.
You're doing your-
Stop. Around this table, we have very specific things that we want the Amarillo City Council to do based on what they promise us. But it's true for everybody. You know, Tim Reed took a lot of heat for one vote he made on his very first meeting.
Yeah.
And others are trying to say, well, it was his first vote. And, you can feel how you want to about that. I think you should have planned for that in advance personally. But anyways, we need to start.
Well,
And
this
in
is-
today's digital age, we've got all this stuff recorded.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is what we need to do right here from this table. Let's bloom out. You get 2 people. That's it. 2. You get 2. You get 2. I think us as precinct chairs, we should get 5. And Peggy, you get 2. 2, 4, 6.
Send them to us. You don't have to
That's
actually do
16.
anything against you.
That's
Board
16.
position.
That's 16 people. Let's just round it down to 15. And there's no reason why we couldn't be in a setting similar to this, and we're just having a fireside chat with our elected officials. There's no need for anyone to ever be intimidated. They work for us.
Right.
I mean, it'd be like us being intimidated to sit down with the guy that cuts our grass. That's silly. We hired him, and we need some edging done. Anyone that needed that done wouldn't be intimidated and say, "Well, the guy works for me."
That's the modern joke of it all. though.
Somehow it got lost in the minutia. And I'm not sneezing. There's no need to say bless you. Something got lost somewhere where they became this celebrity of some sort. And let me take a picture. They should be wanting to take pictures with us. We're the ones that are getting them in there. They're the ones that are making the good money off of our vote. But so it's not a challenge. It's just something we should try to do. Start having these fireside chats, moving them around the community or wherever, coming to the meeting, whatever we need to do. And I think once we can get that thermostat out and start knowing what the temperature is, we'll know whether to put a jacket on or take it off. It's pretty simple. And if it's too hot too often, someone needs to look at the air conditioning unit. So famous last words, Kathy? What
We
you
have
got?
all the power. We just have to use it.
Yeah.
We don't.
Carl, what you got?
I think realistically, it's going to take a lot of people stepping up and finally doing something that they've talked about for years.
Yeah.
Because we all know that person who has these ideas, but they don't get it done.
Mhm.
We're going to need people, not just in Amarillo, because of course this is everywhere, but don't be the person who just complains about it. We
Sure.
need to step up, run for office, change things ourselves.
Mhm.
And again, grassroots movements can work. We just need to actually get it done.
Yeah, for sure. Viv?
Piggybacking off of that, just because like I said, education and find your gift.
Mhm.
Not everybody is a leader. Do not let anyone push you into that position you know you don't need to be in,
Mhm.
and then you end up not doing what you thought you could or wanted to do, and you end up, how you gonna say, going to the dark side. Utilize your gift, because the people you don't want in these positions, that's exactly what they did. They're
Mhm.
utilizing doctors on all these different boards. They're utilizing the education system.
Mhm.
They're utilizing every avenue that they can because they're utilizing their gifts. So find your gift,
Mhm.
dig your heels in, and do what you can.
Like it. Peg?
It's very good. I got so absorbed in what Viv was saying.
Yeah.
I forgot about what I was going to say. I just want to encourage people to get involved, get educated, and share.
Mhm.
If they consider running for office, weigh it, pray about it. Because if God's for you, who can be against you?
Mhm.
But know that it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I fully expect if I run, and I'll be praying about it over the next couple of years. I've got I laugh and say, I've got 4 years left on my 6-year sentence, because you're elected for 6 years.
Mhm.
But if I feel like the Lord's leading me to run, I know it's going to be a different type of election because I've questioned things.
Mhm.
I've thought for myself, and it hasn't always been appreciated.
Sure.
And so I fully expect that there will be those that come out.
Mhm.
And the thing is, when you're in politics,
Mhm.
they can say anything they want to about you, whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
And that's when my mom's old adage, sis, if they know you, then they'll know better than that.
Yeah. There you go.
And if they don't know you, it doesn't matter anyway. But get involved in whatever level. And if you support someone, consider supporting them financially. A lot of small donations can add up to one big one.
Definitely.
And so it's very important for people to get involved in whatever way they can, because we can't make a difference if we don't.
Sure.
Plain and simple.
There you go. Well, I'll say this. Thank y'all for spending some of your Sunday afternoon with us. Let's work on getting these fireside chats going. I'm not into pep rallies. I'm into purpose rallies, if you will. And I think that if you carry the truth, you can say it softly and it'll be impactful. I think the ones that are the loudest, a lot of times, they're probably that loud because it's not, you can finish the thought on that for sure. But we love our city. And I would really encourage anyone that's out there listening to reach out to us. Anyone's welcome to the table. Anyone's welcome to the table. I'm fascinated by even the folks that would consider themselves very other end of the spectrum. But what is it? I spoke to a lady by the name of Carmen Seberg. She's the Democrat Party chair in Potter. I seen her at the Bethel rally, and she came right over to me. She says, "Hey, Alex, what are you doing?" And I says, "I'm just here checking it out." And what I told her, and she responded, "I really like that. I'm really glad to hear you say that." But we've never had the moment to talk to each other in that fashion. I go to those things because I want to understand. It's not always about strategy for me. It's about trying to figure what is it that is compelling these folks. And what I told Carmen was, honestly, a lot of these people here really have the same passion as I do for things. But we're told that, by these certain, what they're called is, they're called proctors in our society. They're formed that way to get loud, so you can't sit down and talk with one another. And that's by design. And so I told her, I says, I think we would probably, if we could get to the foundational issue, we could probably start to really fix some things. I said, Beto, I've heard him talk before. He's a great fundraiser. I understand why he's being utilized, but at the end of the day, what's the result? What's the outcome? And I think that we can ask both parties that, well, where's the outcome? Because at the end of the day, I hate hearing that when I see podcasts, but here I am saying it. But when it's all said and done, what's the result? Does
anything change?
Yeah. And I tell my girls, and I tell my son, it's a challenge to change the world, but not letting it change you. You can control that right now in the moment. Don't let it change you. And a lot of these folks, they get this tunnel vision, and it just becomes posturing sometimes. And you're like, that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My fence still's messed up. You came over here to say you're going to help me, and we're just talking about my boots. Can we work on the fence? Let's get it up, and the lobbying. I think we need campaign finance is never going to be resolved. It's too thick.
Well, and it can't be, like I said, I would say
There's
with details, but
yeah.
if you do any of the popular campaign finance reforms, the only people that have money left to spend politically is unions.
Yeah. Well, I have heard of an idea, and it's not my idea. I heard it on a podcast I was listening to. And it was pretty good. I don't like the term vouchers because it's connected to things I don't like. But what they offered was everyone that's registered voter, they get $1,000, and they could spend it towards any candidate that they wish, however they wish. They can't spend it on tires or stuff like that. It can only be towards a candidate.
You can
That
allocate.
in Amarillo, in local politics, it's 63,000 registered voters. In Randall, I think it's something like 26 for the local for Potter. That's a lot of money. That would really even the table. So until we get there, what we're going to try to offer to do with Conservatives of Texas and with our precinct, I think I've shared a little bit of this with you, was getting with the small businesses and seeing if they would be willing. And if you're out there, small businesses, please get a hold of us. We would love to see something to push back against this voter apathy. If a small business out there would be willing to get involved in this, because guess what? The people that are in office do affect you some way or another. If they would be willing to give 10% off for anyone that walked in during elections,
With an I voted sticker.
well, the thingy, the validation of the receipt, if you will, that gives you your timestamp. I think that voter turnout would be a little better, possibly. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
good
Do you think
idea.
it'd be something that might go towards evening the playing field somewhat?
It would, but I only think it would be a positive thing
Mhm.
if there's also an increase of education.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, that's just buying votes.
Okay.
People are they're just gonna tic-tac-toe it to get the voucher.
The thing
At least
is,
on our side, the
Yeah.
people we know.
they don't want to be educated.
Yeah.
And
That's
we,
gonna,
in the field with our little fingers spreading all over the place, every time you hear something, well, that's what you get for electing so-and-so. He said he was going to fix it and he didn't. Let's do better next time.
That's part of the problem with Potter versus Randall on the voting and why Potter just doesn't vote. I think a lot of people in Potter feel like they're ignored
Because
and-
Southwest Randall's the only thing that matters.
and they have been lied to over and over and over. And one of the big sentiments throughout Potter is Potter pays for the projects in Randall and downtown that they didn't ask for.
Well,
so it doesn't matter who we vote for, we're never gonna get anything, because it goes back to kind of what I was talking about earlier. Those that, and no disrespect to the people out of Potter who may or may not watch this, but it is what it is. The beast that is politics, You have to look a certain way, talk a certain way, have a certain pedigree behind you, have a certain look to you, and you have to play the game of politics. And like you stated, fruit.
Mhm.
They don't think people in Potter pay attention to what happens downtown because we already have the sentiment. We already get the gist. There's no need to question. And then when they come over here, it is a different image, a different brand, a different language they speak because they don't want people to know. And I say, and again, I'm going to these things, I say, that's crazy. You do not have that accent. That's crazy. You don't dress like that over here when you're helping us out. You don't even mention to these people the programs available to them that's over here. That's interesting. And just we went to the Pleasant Valley
Those were
River Road RNA.
Mhm.
They were saying none of these are recognized communities. They're just lumped in together as North Side. They didn't know that till they on their own went to speak downtown. I mentioned the 4-H program and a couple of other programs that I've learned about coming to these things that the commissioner should know about. Hey, y'all are a big agricultural center over here. Your kids, you got your kids up there on the farms and stuff. Does 4-H come over here? Because I was told Potter County doesn't have a 4-H liaison because that person was racially biased and going to the south side of town.
Yeah.
But they're supposed to be in Potter. One of them told me they'd heard of 4-H, didn't know it was available in Potter County. I said, no, go talk to your commissioner. They're in charge of it, but the last I heard, they never, because no one was interested and no one asked, they just pushed it to the back burner and let it fall off. So there's a lot of weirdness and lack of communication and, well, you didn't say anything, so we didn't think you wanted it. They didn't know about it. But sure.
Well, something that's
So it's
interesting.
odd.
Something that's interesting with city council is they say that there's just too much legal parameters that would revolve around making it single member. And I thought to myself, well, the county's that way. County single member district.
So what you're saying, except you're not saying it, is they were lying again. That side lies
They always
if they're.
put this legal thing on it, and I think to myself, but going to the fruit doesn't ever lie. And we are single member district at city council when you find out where they're all out of Southwest Amarillo. No knock on being successful in life. I'm not knocking any person, but if you look at where they generally come out of, it is single member district by default. Isn't that interesting? That is the fruit. So maybe we need to work on a hybrid system of some sort. I think bigger cities do it.
Well, it's what the legislatures statewide and federally are. The Senate in both state and federal is based on geography, and the House is based on population.
But here is where I'm really going to end.
Really, this time.
Really.
Sure.
It can all be achieved if the precinct chairs get up and do it, because the precinct chairs ultimately are in that precinct. So I'll give you an example. Kathy is 421. She's the representative elected official for 421. She gets with that commissioner, she gets with the city council member, and they have this talk and they say, this is what this precinct is looking at. And then you get representation. You got 3 folks there. I mean, good gosh, we have how many seats in Randall? 22 out of the 40, right?
33.
33 out of the 40?
We have 22 out of 33.
Oh, 22 out of 33. How many does Potter hold?
Less than
Total?
that.
I know, but how many seats, precinct chairs is
I have
available?
no idea.
So let's just say it's 20 and 20. I know that's probably a low number, but let's just say it's 40 total. If you got 40 representatives that are out there doing their work with their commissioners and with the community and with the city council member, you've already fixed that hybrid issue because you're out there getting
letters, one
yeah.
big word.
Yeah, that's right. So I hope that some precinct chairs in Randall County would just, I'm not mad. Let's just get it going, Let's have fun.
That
I'm
was
not
a
sure my
question.
county commission will have a conversation with me, but
That was a question I had, and incidentally, the precinct meetings or the CEC meetings.
Uh-huh.
I attended until the election, and then that meeting was moved to the same night as the Board of Regents meetings, so I can't attend. Which it
I
could
think
be
I think we've moved
coincidence.
again.
Who
No,
knows?
no, here is
But
yes.
We don't meet,
One of the
actually.
things, yeah. One of the things that I asked was, what is the job
Yeah.
of you were there.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
the job of a precinct chair? And they started saying it, and I said, okay, how many of you did it?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of pressed the point, and it was probably 2%.
Yeah.
A precinct chair, it's not talking about this thing that we're, putting our honey on right now with 4 legs. That's not a precinct chair. A precinct chair is a person that's supposed to be connecting with their
Yeah.
neck of the woods,
Yeah.
with their community, their small
Yeah.
neck of the woods. And I haven't seen that happening much, except for, I'll call Martha Sell out over in Potter. She does.
Yeah.
Alex does. Kathy does. I haven't seen a whole lot of people doing that. I'm not saying they aren't. Maybe they are, and I don't know it. But I can say that I never knew anything about a precinct meeting for my precinct.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some go out there block walking, but it doesn't start and end there. I mean, you go get captains,
Mhm.
and it makes the job a lot easier. I mean, if you get the way I look at it, when I go out to my precinct, I look at any house that has a flag up, and that tells me something. Make them captains, and you get 10 captains, and it makes the block walking a whole lot easier. But it's not just block walking. That's important, but it's about having block parties, having
Connecting.
fellowship, making it a lifestyle. What we're starting to do with Conservatives of Texas is the volleyball nights, the synergy nights, watch UFC, whatever. I don't know. We're going to move that to a different place because the Glenwood nothing was going on there. So we're going to move it to Memorial Park. But anyways, it's just about getting out into the community and being some type of fixture. And honestly, politics is the last thing on my mind. It's about saying, hey, you stepped in a huge hole. What's going on? Let's call our commissioner. What are you doing down there? What's going on? Yeah. But anyways, I want to say we love all of our elected officials. We're here to try to ally with them the best that we can and be something of a hub. We want to work with you guys and girls, whoever's out there that's elected. But at the same time, you shall know them by their fruit. So we got to make sure that we are doing our stewardship, right? So I'm out. Thanks, guys. Let me get off of this here real quick because I am really done. Y'all say bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you
Thanks for
next time.
joining us.
Remember, every third Thursday, 2700 Southwest 34th East Side entrance, Comanche Trail Church of Christ. God bless.